right? Is that how you guys want me to say it? Hi, I'm Natalie Byrne. I am so excited to be in Cannes at the Global Goals House with these amazing panelists. We're kicking off this morning and the week talking about the future of innovation and how the medium of digital communications allows us to effectively reach all of you out there and think about how we can actually use these mediums to make a big difference and positively affect the world around us. So I'm Natalie. I am the founder of Blank Space, a purpose communications firm, and would love to have everyone introduce themselves and get to know who's with us.
I'm Steve Parker. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Levelwing. We're a digital agency.
My name is Jason Rose. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for SAP's customer experience business. So really all of the applications and software that really help us build customer journeys across digital, physical, and every touch point that a brand has with a customer.
Hi, I'm Michal Shapira, and I'm the SVP of Content Partnerships for the news division of WarnerMedia. So that's CNN, HLN, and Great Big Story. And part of my world is Courageous, which is our in-house brand studio.
Amazing. So we're actually going to start it there. We're seeing a lot of companies start to innovate around storytelling. And we've had a movement towards in-house studios, creative labs, all of these fun new things. And I know it's because if we're not innovating creatively, we're actually losing the future consumer market. So I would love if you would chat a little bit about the building of Courageous and what does it mean for you guys who are innovating as a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched about 4 years ago. And what we were seeing in the industry was just rapid change. There was a lot of consumer habits, attitudes, opinions that were changing. And we felt that we needed to keep up with that. We needed to do something a little different. There was sort of this notion that disruptive ads and other methods of trying to reach consumers just weren't working. They were annoying, they were not effective. There's a lot of money being spent against them, and we felt that wasn't really the right way to market. And so we started thinking about building a brand studio to kind of come up with a way to connect with audiences in a more authentic way, through emotion, through cultural relevance, and really be more effective through storytelling. We found that that's a way to reach them, because there's just this bombardment of messages coming at them and ad blindness and everything else. So we decided to build the studio. And we literally built it from the ground up. So this is not an existing team that was sort of rebranded, which happens sometimes. We really started from the ground up. And by the way, the space was quite saturated. We were arguably late to the game. So we decided that we were going to have a very specific point of view. We decided to specialize in video in particular, from a storytelling perspective. And we've been doing a lot of work since then. We've built it up. We have our own space down in Union Square. We've worked with over 120 brands, produced over 1,000 videos, and expanding now to other areas like design, like events and experiential, etc. And doing a lot of really meaningful, I would say, work for brands. So not just storytelling, any storytelling, but also purpose-driven, cause-related storytelling, which is really sort of hitting the mark with a lot of our clients.
Do you have maybe one example that you could tell us of a success story? So for so many people out there who are maybe thinking, wow, this studio sounds so amazing, but I don't know how what that looks like. Do you have a campaign or?
Yeah, we actually have something that we're going to screen later on today here at Cannes.
You're hearing it first, guys.
Yep, for Procter & Gamble, actually, and we came up with this Pride and Progress platform for them around.
So I saw Mark this morning.
Yeah, so he's going to be speaking, a little
Yeah.
bit later as well, and we're going to screen a film that we did for them through Courageous, which is actually 25 minutes long. It's called Out of the Shadows. It's a sequel to a film that we did last year that won a Silver Can Lion.
Yay!
That was called The Words Matter, and it was really impactful and meaningful, and P&G wanted to stand up and tell their story of how back in the day their sort of equal opportunity statement did not include LGBTQA rights, and there were employees within the company who stood up to kind of fight for that, and they wanted to tell the story, and they came to us to do that. And so it's a really lovely, powerful story that is worth telling, especially in this time.
Yeah. Well, and something that you're touching on that I think is really important for all of us out there to think about, especially if you're in this industry and we're thinking about how we can really grow this industry and do it better, is it's not just storytelling, right? So P&G started on their journey thinking about what they care about, their values, and how to express it. Partnered with you guys around how to really do that in a way using your expertise in storytelling. And what I love about that story, and I actually talk about it a lot, is the idea that it innovated the company itself. It had the opportunity to change culture. And we're not just talking about old school CSR. This isn't just putting some social initiative in an HR department. We're thinking about, what does our business mean? What is the culture for our employees? And what is the storytelling we want to get to the consumers around that?
That's right. And actually this year we're also expanding, because it was so successful and the partnership goes so deep, and everyone felt like it was, just so important to talk about this topic and bring it to life. We're actually also doing an event. So on June 27th in New York City, we're going to be doing a public exhibit that actually talks about this movement through the decades, from the 1940s to current day. And we're going to have 300 or so artifacts that are actually like personal items of LGBTQA, members of the community who've kept all of this memorabilia that really meant something to them over the years. That was part of this movement. Amazing. And so we're telling that story now in real life, and we're going to film that for distribution as well. So it's kind of like a really big platform that we're building.
So we're not going to leave it all up to the women up here to change the world. Steve, I'd love to go with you. I was reading a piece that you wrote around where data and creativity intersect and how they drive each other. And I think this is a perfect segue when we think about, are we leading with storytelling and then following the metrics, or speak more, because I know you have a lot to say about that. And I found it really interesting.
Well, as an agency, we founded the company as purely an analytics firm, not to become a full service agency, which now over 17 years we have become, but still that's at our core. And I think that, although we use data first to help inform what we have to create, I think storytelling is still a huge part of how you get the message across. And we were talking upstairs even about, how the large agency holding companies and most agencies don't do a lot of this purpose or goals-driven content for themselves. They do it for other brands. And we were no different for many years, right? But then actually earlier this year, we decided to put our money where our mouth is, and we've created 3 mini documentaries around 3 core principles that we believe in: transparency, fundamentals, and setting proper expectations. And a lot of that was driven off of data that we had of questions that we would get from people that were applying to work for us, and client conversations that we'd have about what makes us different. Everyone's winning lines here, or I don't know. but there will be plenty of them won, right? And so how do you differentiate if you all have the same thing? And so it really comes down to how do you use that information to help influence what you're going to go create in the marketplace.
Wow, that's powerful. And for those of you who may be new to what a CanLine is, this is actually pretty remarkable that we're talking about biggest awards that you can get in marketing and advertising. But what we've seen happen, and it's increasing over the years, is a shift towards the purpose. I call brand DNA at Blank Space. And very similar to you, we launched because we saw a need for brand purpose storytelling. So if you go to a brand DNA and you think about, why does it exist in the world? How do these businesses affect our lives? Dive a little bit deeper into that, and maybe get a case study that you worked on that was powerful.
From a brand perspective.
Mm-hmm. Or client, one of your clients.
Yeah. From a client perspective, we have one of our clients is Bridgestone, and Bridgestone has they're a tire company, and so on the surface when you look at them, you don't think a lot about tires. When consumers are purchasing tires, there's a lot of thought that goes into how much they cost and how long they last, what's the warranty like. But from a brand ownership perspective as a consumer, it's a really hard, when you think about it's black rubber,
Yeah.
right? And that's all it is for me.
Yes.
But Bridgestone's been really innovative in launching some products like Ecopia that is a product that is more sustainable for the environment, right? There's less materials in the manufacturing process. When you dispose of it, it's better for the environment. It creates more fuel efficiency in terms of how the car performs. So actually over a period of 3 to 4 years, the tires essentially pay for themselves.
Wow.
So it's, like I would say, it's
That's
a very
the story.
almost carbon neutral type of platform for
Yeah.
them. And it's been a great product for them over the last few years. And so there's been a lot of content that we've helped them create, as well as some of the other agency partners, around that storytelling of why is this product different than all the other products in the marketplace.
And speak a little bit on, specifically because of what we're talking about today, your media strategy around digital communications and actually creating community, because that's what we're talking about. Technology is innovating the way that we communicate and reach all of you. So if we think about innovation, technology, community, I'd love for you to just speak a little bit about how you did that.
A lot of it was, from an execution perspective, was delivered through social, because that's where people are having conversations about any of these topics, that are important to them in any given moment. So, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn to some degree, and then there's some other sort of secondary platforms. But then when you talk about reaching a younger marketplace, then you have to start thinking about Snap and some of the others that exist.
Yeah. So I think it's really powerful to think about how you're touching on something that's a perfect segue to what Jason does. And by the way, you can't see that his shoes are super long. we were trying to get everyone to just film our shoes because we're all tired of Cannes, we're on jet lagged and all of that. But anyways, thinking about communications through social media is the first time that not only transparency, which you touched on, but a brand can actually speak directly to its end consumer. And I think a lot of you have seen the effects of the end consumer speaking back to the brand. So there's been some quick pivots where people have launched something that didn't resonate with their audience and they got feedback instantly, sometimes shockingly so. Would you speak a little bit more about what you guys do? And then,
Sure.
Maybe bring that in, because I know you're maybe connecting the dots.
Well, it's actually interesting kind of being the representative of the brand here on this panel today, because I look at what we do with agencies and the incredible storytelling and the work our agency partners do with us, but it tends to be point in time, right? Like the video lasts for a season, it lasts for a period of a campaign. But really as a brand, SAP is a 40-year-old organization. And I came into SAP about 2 years ago through an acquisition of a company called Gigya. And at that point, SAP was relaunching itself as an organization and reconnecting to its roots as a 40-year-old software company in a B2B marketplace. Our kind of mission is the best run businesses make the world run better, okay? And really we're all about empowering businesses to deliver at their absolute best for consumers. So we're a B2B organization, but we bring that to life by making our customers the best that they can be, right? And really for us, it was a lot of internal soul searching, because we had done a number of different things along the way, but really it had to come back to our core purpose. What our founders, right, like 40 years ago, founded the company on was this idea of business efficiency, right? And really, how could we bring that back to the forefront? And then what that actually enabled as well was really a twofold benefit. One, it was true to who we were as an organization. So our employee base actually became super engaged in this program, and it helped as a talent recruitment and retention tool for our staff to get the absolute best people into the organization. But it also very much resonated with our customer base, but also resonated beyond that. And what we've seen in the last 2 years since we've launched this, we've actually moved 5 spots on the Brand Z Most Valuable Brands list, and we're actually at number 16 right now. We surpassed Disney in terms of brand value this year. Okay, this is a big B2B German software company, and we are like well in the top 20 most valuable brands, because I think we have done such a good job of connecting back that core mission of making businesses run better to purpose in the world. We were actually one of the founders here of the Goal House, and making sure that not only are we making businesses run better, but we're making the entire world run better. But that's something we need to live every day in terms of the great agency partners we have in terms of helping tell that story, but right through our entire employee base, right down to our customers, that they understand what we stand for and what we're driving as an organization. It can't be a one-off campaign. It can't be something that's other, like CSR was great, but it was other. It was like, oh, there's a CSR team over there and they worry about purpose.
Yes.
I don't have to.
Right.
But in this case, we actually really made it a part of everybody's job.
Yeah, so I think that's worth actually taking a minute to speak on is personally, we're all part of this industry. What do we think about our individual responsibility around innovating the industry, pushing the industry? I work inside of Unilever on brand purpose with the Prestige portfolio, and I love that work because we're pushing these brands to really communicate what they stand for. And I would love just to hear about personally where you see this ladder up, and when we think about what we're here for, who's gathering us, the UN and our SDGs. And I mean, this is real stuff. When you think about access to quality education and gender equity, sustainable communities, this is how we thrive as a globally connected ecosystem. How do you guys think individually you ladder up into those pieces? Feel free to jump in.
I always try and take, as a company and as an individual and as a CEO of the company, you have to have a leadership voice in this process. I try and take the most fundamental aspects of it, which is actually one of our core principles, 2 fundamentals, right? And so whether it's internally, how we educate our staff, how we work with our team, you had said it's not a one-time thing about the topic you were just talking about. It's about continuity. So what are the little things that you can do every day a little bit better than everyone else? And that will ultimately create innovation for you, or a platform for you to be able to go do something that's considered innovative. So with us, it's about, I'll use one simple example with our staff. Everyone has a review every 30 days.
Wow.
And it's about constant communication. That also includes performance. It includes how are you feeling today and what other things do I need to know about you to help you work better, work smarter, to feel better about the work that you're doing on a daily basis. And I think that those things are really basic, fundamental elements. If you're having a relationship with anyone, if you don't talk to them every day, then you don't continue to build that relationship. So that would be one example. And you have to allow that to filter through all types of different individuals. Our agency, for example, over half the staff are women or minorities. And so you're taking a lot of different perspectives and backgrounds, trying to mix them and make sure that everyone can work in conjunction to achieve the same goals for us as a company, and then also for the brands that we represent.
That's really interesting. At Unilever, similarly, we look at personal goals that also line up around impact. So everyone is measured not only on the KPI of their performance goals, but also around sustainability and impact. And you have to really think about where that is for you. So I think that's powerful, and talking with your staff every 30 days allows you to actually create a culture of communication at home, right? You'll learn a lot earlier about something.
So I think that by and large in our industry, agencies are really bad internal communicators. As much as we're about communicating brand messages to the marketplace, as an industry as a whole, and there's examples where this doesn't happen, but by and large, I think really bad internal communicators. And so it is. We actually, when we started to change and create this type of a process internal for us, this was 2014, and we call it a commitment to communication. That was the whole theme for the year. It was about how do we commit to communication, and it was about internal, personal meetings every 30 days. It was about a Friday morning stand up, whether you're in the New York office, San Francisco, Charleston, you're part of that. And it also included how we communicate with clients, less email, more phone calls, more digital tracking of process, and so that everyone can have access to everything from a transparency perspective. So it all fit into one, and each one of those had really small individual components that you could call a fundamental.
That's great. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important as a leader, to inspire everyone on your team by leading by example. And so being purpose-driven is something I personally live, day in, day out. And I think, you inspire that in others and acknowledge and reward when you see, others kind of exhibiting that behavior and getting behind it. I think you touched on something in terms of the diverse hiring, which is also something that we feel really strongly about and do a lot of. And I think, not just sort of race, background, gender, et cetera, but I think also like purpose, and what people believe in and what their passions are, because then it turns into, I think, a product, an output that is more meaningful to them, and then in turn to the audiences that are watching it. And then also kind of on a separate track is the whole innovation side of things. And so again, as a leader, you want to inspire risk-taking and reward that as well within the organization. And that's like, across all the ranks, I would say, because one of my favorite things to say is, no one's cornered the market on good ideas, and ideas can really come from anywhere. And so you want everyone to feel empowered really to take risks, whatever that means for them, at whatever level that they are. And I think that that's how you really can grow into, something really impactful.
Well, and in your industry especially, I mean, when you think about innovation, communication, and media, you look at what's happening in augmented reality, right? So for the first time, we can experience what it feels like to be in a new environment, experience what it feels like to walk in someone's shoes. These experiences are changing the way that we think about digital communications, if you will, from a really basic level. Will you speak a little bit about that and what you see being in the cutting edge with some of your front-facing even news organizations?
In terms of innovation,
Yeah.
I mean, we're constantly experimenting with, different tactics and different production techniques, and so yes, we've done some AR, we've done VR. Right now, we're kind of branching, believe it or not, more into the events and experiential space. Because we believe that, we could use that courageous special sauce in terms of storytelling, but in real life. And then, capture kind of what we're doing there and distribute it in the best way that we know, which is obviously video form. So we recently actually did a really interesting event in New York City for Hulu, for The Handmaid's Tale, their third season that they were promoting. And so we came up with this story, that out of 150 statues in New York City, guess how many of them are women?
1.
3. I'm gonna step outside and say 5.
5.
You got
it.
Luck of the draw.
Do we know who they are?
We do know who they are. The Golda Meir is one of them. There's 5, which is really like a terrible, shocking, right, stat. So what we did was, for one day, we decided to create statue parody. And we created 140 statues of women in Flatiron Plaza.
That's amazing.
And they are a silhouette of a woman, really, in this mirrored kind of texture and material. So the idea is that from afar, you get the sense that it's, women are invisible. That is how fleeting their representation has been throughout history. Even though they have helped shape it in so many ways. And then when you get up close, you see yourself, and the idea is that this could be you, and so you can change things, you can shape the future. Anyway, it was a really, really interesting experience, and I actually, back to the purpose thing, I had a couple of women chase me. They saw that I had some involvement with it, and they chased me as I was leaving and said, thank you so much for doing this. This means so much. So
and really even more exciting. You're in a very public-facing, influential leadership position as a woman, making decisions like this, and I think that that's something else we need to see. And it's, when you think about digital communications and actually gender, a statistic that I found really interesting, even from Shark Tank, that they say in all of the seasons of the businesses, the people who've been the most successful are the ones who can tell a good story. And taking it one step further, the ones who can tell a good story digitally, because women tend to be community driven, and I should actually say these are feminine qualities. They don't necessarily need to subscribe to a certain gender, but the idea of building communities and having these conversations, everyone up here has made a living in this, so we have experts from all sides of the spectrum and thinking about what that means. So thank you actually for the work you're doing and showing up, because I bet every day that there's a lot of young women in the company who now can see themselves in such a powerful role.
And we have, a division within the company called WarnerMedia Impact, and we work really closely with them, to kind of create more meaningful types of campaigns and programs for our clients around this space. And it's something I'm very committed to doing as a woman, as a leader. I think it derives great conversation, great storytelling, great output, just great content in general. So thank you for having me on the panel.
So Jason, I want to get to you, and then we are also getting close to the end of the panel. So thinking too about a little rapid fire on what we want to, where we want to see the industry go, and what one of our biggest, where we push. But also I want to give you a chance to touch on what they touched on.
Sure. So, I think the change starts with us, right? So obviously I'm a white man, right? And I can't change that, but I think
you're a little red.
Yeah, I'm exactly. But really it's surfacing unconscious bias, right? I think it's something that we all need to do. And interestingly, I have the good fortune of having an all-female leadership team. So literally I've had the experience sitting in the room with my LT where I go, wow, I'm the only man in the room. But it gives me pause and goes, like, for many of the women on my team, this is every day, right? Where it doesn't necessarily change what you're doing, but it gives you that pause for a moment to go, whoa, I'm different than everybody else in this room. So I think, really being able to begin to look past some of those unconscious biases, because as I've done my hiring process, people go, oh, she's kind of like, I'm like, no, she gets stuff done. Like, I mean, she's a hard pusher, and there's different terminology people use for women than men that have those attributes, right? And that's the reality, and I've chosen to look past that and go, you know what? She's strong.
Words matter.
Words matter. Yeah.
Words matter.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that you remember.
So our actions, right, are what are going to speak louder than words. And it was interesting though. Like, it wasn't until I actually presented my new leadership team on an all-hands call, and one of the women, not on the LT, came up to me and said, "Jason, I got chills when I saw the slide with your leadership team and such a strong group of women." And I went, oh, wait a minute, it is all women. So it wasn't intentional, but at the same time, is the type of thing where I think we all need to take it upon ourselves to really be conscious and take a moment and go, is that feedback really, representative, or can I look past some of the just general stereotypes that still exist in the workplace? And I think diversity isn't about ignoring differences, it's about acknowledging and embracing differences, right?
Yes.
So I think anytime that we as leaders can kind of embrace the change, I think that's our job. Like, that's what we have to do every day, is kind of look past and help surface some of those unconscious bias.
So that also answers your rapid fire where you want to see the industry go?
Yeah, I think in terms of where I want to see, interestingly, so I'm at SAP, which is a huge brand, right? But I've been doing startups for the last 4 years. I was acquired into SAP about 1.5 years ago. And interestingly, in startup world, the marketeer is actually responsible for everything from corporate strategy, what markets we're going to go after, all the way through customer renewal and retention, right? So who sat next to the chief executive officer every day?
Yeah.
The CMO, right? And I think for those of you out there at more traditional brands, I think marketing has traditionally been maybe a rung or two down from the CEO, maybe not a part of the board discussion or the leadership discussion.
Brand innovation,
But if you want to live the values, if you want to kind of tell a consistent story, marketing really needs to step up.
This is what we do at Blank Status.
And assume the leadership position that is required now in order for us to engage the modern consumer, because they are engaging with us everywhere, social, physical, digital. It all needs to come together, and the CMO and the marketing team is best positioned to drive that change.
That's amazing. How about you, Steve?
I think you have, like, if you were to, not that you should, but if you follow me on Instagram, there's a little quote that I have on there, and it says, will work for commitment. And I think that's how I feel. Like, I'm either committed to something or I'm not, and the people around me, and even the brands that I desire to work with and that we work with, have a commitment to something. It doesn't mean everything that's behind us, but it's a commitment to something to move forward. So as an industry, for me personally, I think it's about what direction I would like to lead our company, and attempting to lead our company is making sure that we're not trying to chase a shiny object. We're all storytellers, and we are too, right? But how can you be committed to whatever that topic is, and not just have a light brush on the surface of it, but go deep? And I think that takes commitment. That's consistency. That's every day. That's not something that's just a one time. This is going to sound really good in a soundbite, and then we move on from it. But hey, we checked it off the list. Mm-hmm. And so it's about real deep commitment on a daily basis. And I think without that, you can't affect change in any of these topics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Be authentic.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I think you can be if you're committed, right? Because if you're not, it's pretty clear quickly that you're not.
Okay, guys, well, you heard it here first. Thank you for joining us at Cannes. And stay tuned for all of the other global goal conversations. We're going to keep you up to date with what's happening here on the ground, and excited to see you guys again soon.